help if I unmute the mic. Good morning, Galaxians, and welcome to another live edition of the Galaxy CDs, Rocks and Flips Reseller Talk podcast. My name is Ryan, and we've got a couple of things we're going to go over today. In the second half of the show, I've got a really big What Sold recap. If you follow along with the main show, I did not do a What Sold segment in the main podcast on Monday, so I've got, 15, 16, 17 things to go over, so you'll want to stick around for that. There's some really interesting stuff there, some of which, if you are a regular attendee of the lives, you have seen previously as we did some listings, so that'll be cool. But the first thing I wanted to talk about was the eBay Top Rated Seller Plus program. Melissa, Mel Flips It, reached out to me and asked if I thought the program was worth it and if I would be willing to discuss it on this show. So, Mel, I hope you're here because that's what we're going to do today. To spoil the lead, like many things in reselling, it is a program that is great for some sellers in some cases, some of the times. It is certainly not for everyone, but I thought what we would do today is spend a little time, kind of go over what the program is, talk a little bit about eBay's seller performance standards and how you become a top-rated seller to begin with, and then what that particular program actually looks like. So that's what we're going to get into, and let's just jump right in here if I can. So let's talk about eBay's policy first up. What are their seller standards? And they have requirements. But actually, before I do that, let me jump into the chat here and say some good mornings, which I did not do. Media Picker and Mel is here. Great. This is what we're going to cover. This is your question. Liz O'Kane, good morning. Mel says hello to Liz and Big Dre. Good morning. Good morning to everyone who is here for this show. So let's get into this eBay Top Seller program. Their seller standards, they basically have all sellers are required to maintain the following minimum performance standards for their listing on eBay within their evaluation period. So this is every month they make an evaluation on where you're at. Cases closed without seller resolution, no more than 2 or 0.3% of your transactions, whichever is more, and a transaction defect rate of no more than 2%. So that's kind of the baseline to be what they call above standard. We evaluate your performance, and this is right off eBay's site, so I'm not making this up. We're reading it right off their site. We evaluate your performance on the 20th of each month based on your recent sales and assign you one of the following seller levels. Top rated, they say, means that you are exceeding their performance expectations as well as having an established sales history and complying with other eBay policies. And we'll get into that a little bit more as we get into this. Above standard, oddly, means you are meeting their expectations. So that's kind of actually at standard, but they call it above standard. And then below standard means that your performance has fallen below those minimum standards. And as a result, they may place limitations on your selling activity, which includes, but is not limited to, charging higher final value fees until your performance improves. So they note if you are top rated, this will be shown in your feedback profile. Otherwise, other eBay members won't have any idea that you are at, quote unquote, above or below standard. So that's kind of the baseline. The 20th of each month, they look at those recent transactions to work out how many cases you closed or were closed by eBay without you completing them, without you coming up with a resolution, your transaction defect rate, and a late shipment rate. They say to make sure they're getting a fair picture, they'll adjust how far they look back, the quote-unquote evaluation period, depending on how many items you've sold recently. So if you had more than 400 transactions in the last 3 months, they count all of those. And that's as far back as they will go. If you had fewer than 400 in the past 3 months, they count all of your transactions during the last year. So if you are a smaller seller, not selling 130 odd transactions per month, you are going to be evaluated on your performance over the course of a year, which is why some people, when they fall below standard, have such a hard time digging out of it, because that is a long, long time to go back and look. I'm not going to read through all of this. There is a description of how they decide which things are what those minimum requirements are and all that. I'll go back and link to this in the show notes and the video description below. To my podcast listeners, I am going to post this as an audio podcast for you as a special treat to show you again kind of what goes on here on Wednesday. So you'll have access to all this information. So requirements to become a top-rated seller. So this is where you start to get into the kind of the specials that are available. Your seller performance, cases closed without seller resolution, again, has to be no more than 2 or 0.3% of transactions. Your defect rate can be no more than 0.5% and associated with no more than 3 different buyers. You can have a late shipment rate of no more than 5 or 3% of your transactions, and you have to have uploaded tracking on at least 95% of your transactions with handling time and validated by the carrier. So this is one, I've had a couple of instances, and it's not gotten me anywhere near 95%, where the third party, I use Pirate Ship for all my shipping, where their connection has not worked properly and a tracking number was not uploaded on time to eBay. That's one of those things you might want to take a look at. If you use those services, I'm now in the habit, I look every morning after I've done my shipments. I just scroll down through them on eBay to make sure they've all got tracking numbers attached to them. So those are kind of the criteria. The other things, your account has to have been active for at least 90 days. So you can't be a new seller. You have to have at least 100 transactions and $1,000 in sales with U.S. buyers over the last 12 months. And you're complying with eBay's selling practices policies. And again, I'm not going to dive too deep into that. There is a link in this if you want to go read what all of those are. But that is essentially what you are required to do to get top-rated status. Now, the question was from Melissa, what about top-rated plus? What are the requirements and what are the benefits? What's the advantage, if any, to doing it? So once you've reached top-rated status, you can qualify your listings for these exclusive top-rated plus benefits, but under 2 conditions. You have to offer same or 1 business day handling, and you have to have 30-day or longer free returns. So let's start with those and break them out separately. For me, the first one that I looked at was the same or 1 business day handling. I ship 6 days a week. I ship Monday through Saturday. I go to the post office every morning. That's part of my routine. I get up, I grab my cup of coffee, and I head over to the warehouse and I pull all my stuff and I ship all my orders. So that's kind of the first thing I do, and I've always done that. So I have always had 1 business day handling. That is clearly not for everyone. So if you're a part-time seller, this is a side hustle for you, and you've got a full-time job, and you're the kid's soccer coach, you got a family, you got all this other stuff going on. Doing shipping every business day, Monday through Friday, you don't have to do Saturday, just Monday through Friday, is a big ask for a lot of folks. And I know full-time sellers that don't ship every day, that they do Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or Tuesday, Thursday, whatever works. Because it fits better with the other things that they're doing or other things in their life that they want to do. They don't want to be going to the post office every day. In my case, my post office is literally not even half a mile from my house. So it's not a big deal for me to run over there and drop stuff off every morning. For others, that's a deal breaker right off the rip. You can't, 1 business day handling is just too much to ask for some people. So this program, if that is you, the program is not going to work for you. The second thing, of course, is the 30-day or longer free returns. And this is the one that probably holds the most people back. And it's one where you really need to kind of know your numbers and be able to do some math and determine, okay, is this going to make sense for me? So what you get, so we can kind of talk about that math. If you do decide to do this, the top rated plus seal will be displayed prominently in search results and in the listing description. Whoopity-doo. I don't know that anybody looks at that. You can let me know in the chat if that's something that catches your attention. I have never paid any attention to that. From a marketing standpoint, I guess it's better to have it than not, but I don't know that it's a deal breaker for most buyers. I think most people look at feedback and probably don't even notice that badge is there. So that one to me is kind of I would not do this program just to get that seal. Let's put it that way. The big advantage, of course, is you get a 10% discount on your final value fees, which is calculated again on the total amount of the sale, including shipping and tax. The discount, they note, does not apply to the per order portion of the final value fee. That's that 30 cents or whatever it is that they charge on every transaction. The discount does not apply to any additional final value fees applied to sales in categories where you're rated as very high in your service metrics for item not as described returns. So that is another thing that, while technically not part of the program, is something that they look at. So item not described returns can be a problem if you have too many of those in a particular category. They add, please note the 10% final value fee discount is only available to sellers resident in the country in which they're top rated. For example, if you're selling through ebay.com, you must be a resident in the US to qualify for the discount. Also be aware, it does not apply to any of the promoted listings, general promoted listings, priority, the offsite ads, none of that. That is totally separate. So this is just for 10% on your final value fees. So to go back to the returns, a lot of people don't want to do returns, period, and certainly do not want to do free returns. One of the questions that Melissa asked was, do I think providing free returns encourages people to return things? Yes, it does make it easier for them. I don't know that it encourages them in some categories. And I'll use myself as an example. In the last 3 months, I have 5 returns total. My return percentage is like 0.59. So offering free 30-day returns for me has not encouraged people to return things from what I can tell from the math. It's just I'm in a very low return category. And I try to do things with my listings to help ensure that when a customer gets an item, it is exactly what was represented in the listing. So there's really no questions, no gray area, no reason for them to return it. So very, very low returns. If you sell, for instance, in the clothing category, however, this becomes a lot more problematic because A, that category just naturally has a higher return level. And a lot of sellers would say that offering free returns in that category puts you potentially in a situation where you kind of become a rent-to-wear seller, where somebody comes in and they see something, they have an event coming up, they like what you've got, they order it, they wear it to the thing, that you then get a return request, you offer free 30-day returns, eBay automatically approves it, sends them a label, and you're on the hook for it. So I understand why a lot of folks would just, without even the math of whether it financially makes sense versus the discount, would just say, I'm not interested in doing it. So if you're a clothing seller or in a category where there are fairly high returns just naturally, again, this program may not be for you. In my case, again, very low returns. So far, so good. Now, the next thing is, does the math work out? So when I do a refund on a return, I do a full refund. I refund the price and the original shipping. Plus now I'm on the hook for the label, which, on a side note, just to point out, eBay said back in a Summer Seller Check-In or one of their events that you will never pay more for a return label than you paid for your outbound shipping label, that eBay would cover the difference. And that is true only to the extent that you're using anything other than media mail, because all of eBay's return labels are either Ground Advantage or Priority. So if I ship a 2-pound book out at media rate, which is $5.38, it's coming back to me Ground Advantage, which is likely to be higher than that. So now I'm paying, let's say, $11 or $12 per return. And your case may be similar, $5 to $7 each way. If that's how you're going to refund, you're looking at maybe a $12 or $13, $14 expense for every return you take. How much stuff are you selling? How high are your fees? And how much is that 10% actually worth? If you're getting 5, 8, 10 returns a month, unless you're selling a ton of stuff and paying a lot of fees, the math may not make sense. And that, again, you need to do that math for yourself. You need to go back and look at your returns, look at how much you'd be spending on labels, then look at your fees that you've paid in a given month and say, okay, 10% of that is whatever that number is. I would have spent more doing return labels and paying for shipping for items coming back than I would have saved in the discount, it doesn't make sense. In my case, again, to use me as an example, I'm averaging 2 returns a month, so I might be spending maybe $25 or $30 in refunds for shipping and to buy that return shipping label. And my savings at 10% averages about $120 to $150 a month. That's how high my fees are. That's how many transactions I'm running through here. So for me, net, yeah, I'm saving $100 to $120 a month in fees by being part of this program, offering the free returns and doing the same business day handling. Your mileage may vary, and that's why I say this does not work for everyone. It is absolutely something that you need to look at your business and decide whether you can or whether you're willing to make the sacrifices to maybe take some more returns in order to save that 10%. For me, it's $1,200, $1,300, $1,500 a year in essentially in extra profit at the end when everything's netted out. So it makes absolute sense for me to do. Your case may not be the same. So, Mel, if you're still here, let me know if that helps. Like I said, I did offer her, and I offer it again. If you'd like to sit down and have a one-on-one conversation about it, I'd be happy to do that. We can look at your numbers and see if it makes sense. But that's kind of where we're at. Let's get back into the chat here and cover some things. See what people had to say about my ramblings. Media picker, below standards mean you should give up selling on eBay, LOL. It is definitely a challenge, and it gets very expensive if you are, unfortunately, if you are below standard. So, yeah, you definitely want to keep an eye on that. Better Health Blessings says, morning to all. Media picker, the discount is where the TRS is worth it. And hopefully that explanation wasn't too long-winded, and it makes sense to where for some people it doesn't have to be a whole bunch of returns for the math to not come out. Again, if you're a fairly small seller, you may qualify for this program, but the numbers just wouldn't make sense to you. Operating on eBay, if the 10% off the eBay fees is the motivation, you can choose X% donation to your favorite charity, and eBay takes X% off your fees. That is an option as well. Liz O'Kane, I have very little abuse with returns in clothing. What's great is TRS Plus is per item. You can pick and choose the items to be included. I would never include my shoes. They're a higher return rate. And that is true. You can select. I do everything, my entire store, with the exception of a handful of things where I sell some electronics that are broken, that are as is, no returns. Those kind of things don't qualify. But yeah, you can pick and choose the categories and the items that you want as part of the program. Lord Jake Ryan, good morning. Got tied up in a meeting. Those meetings, I don't miss that at all. Miss Lachey Resells, good morning. Mel Flips it, very helpful. Thank you. And again, if you'd like to sit down with a one-on-one, I'd be happy to do that. Media picker, Lord Jake Ryan, I was wondering where you were at. Yes, running late. My clothing friend does the plus also, Liz says. So yeah, again, for some people, it is a fantastic program, and it's a way to save a little bit of money, or in the case of me, a not insignificant amount of money. An extra $1,200 a year is nothing to sneeze at. Smaller sellers that are not in a position to ship every day, sellers that just don't want to mess with returns, although with the standard caveat that in many cases, when push comes to shove, eBay is going to force you into a return anyway, so that can be problematic. But yeah, for me, it is absolutely worth it. But for a lot of folks, that would probably not necessarily be the case. We can continue to discuss that, but I do want to jump in here and get into some what's sold. I have a whole bunch of stuff here this week that we're going to go over. I'm going to hop back in here into the chat because I saw someone else pop up. B-Dog woke up to some sales. How are your sales? As we're about to go through, my sales have been pretty good. August has not been fantastic. I'm on pace. I will probably match last August or be real close. It's not going to be a record month by any stretch of the imagination, but it's been pretty good, and it has picked up as the month has gone on. And as we're about to see, there are some pretty big sales in here. Mel says, I ship daily already. So like I said with mine, that is a case where you've already got one thing done, and the other thing to consider is whether or not returns make sense for you. So let's get into, let me get back here and let's look at these sales. So this first item sold over on eBay. This is going to be a lot of books this week. The Turning Wheel, the story of General Motors, written by Arthur Pound. This was a first edition hardcover published way back in 1934. It was in a reasonably good shape compared to the other ones that I saw listed over on eBay. So I listed mine at $24.99 or best offer. I received an offer of $20 almost right away, and I went ahead and sold that. So a $20 item plus shipping. My fees were $4.13. This did sell through the Promoted Listings General program, so I did have $1.94 in the ad fees. It did only cost $5.38 to ship. My cost of goods sold, this was part of a big lot that I was into for just 94 cents. So my net profit on this item was $13.74. Moving over to Etsy. This item just sold the other day, and interestingly sold overseas. Leon Lippert, Rediscovering the Art and the Man by Thomas J. Lippert. Clearly a relative of this fella. It was published back in 2001, hardcover with its dust jacket, kind of a coffee table-sized book in fairly good condition. This was part of the big 15,000 book lot from a couple of years ago, so very low cost of goods sold. This sold to someone in the UK, so I'm not running my discount outside the US. So this was a full price sale, $24.99. $44.17 in shipping. This person really wanted this book. No sales tax, obviously, $69.16 total. I paid $6.81 in fees. This did not sell, thankfully, through their offsite ad program. Shipping cost was exactly what they paid, $44.17, but my cost of goods sold was a lowly 4 pennies. So I made $18.14 net, all said and done. Hey, we're 3 for 3. We're over on Mercari, which has picked back up for me a little bit. Historic Trails from Philadelphia. This was a illustrated brochure from the, I want to say probably early 1900s. It was not dated, but just based on the artwork and the book that it was found in, my best estimate was that this was something from the early 1900s. This sold over on Mercari for $25 with free shipping. There are no fees for sellers, so no fees. My cost of goods sold, this was part of a big estate buyout, so 91 cents. So this $25 sale netted me $20.13. Back over to Etsy. I've sold a couple of these previously and talked about them. The Seventh-day Adventist Bible Commentary in 7 volumes. I picked up, I think, 6 of the 7 at an estate sale. Gosh, probably coming up on a year ago now. And this, I believe, is the last one that I had. This was volume 3, published in 1954 by the Review and Herald. These are big, like 14 by 11, really big, heavy books. This sold at the 10% discount over on Etsy for $25.19 plus shipping. Fees, $3.44. This did sell through their offsite ad program, so I did pay an additional $4.92 in fees. It cost $7.27 to ship by Ground Advantage, so another case where Ground Advantage was actually less expensive than Media Mail for the win. Cost of goods sold was just $1 from the estate buy, so $25.19 sale netted me $16.19. Back over to eBay. This is a book I have had for a very, very long time. Time and Tide and Munera Pulveris by John Ruskin. This was a Modern Readers Series hardcover from 1928. This book I have probably had for nearly 3 years. It has been here a very, very long time. I believe I had it listed for something like $44.99, maybe. That's probably right, $44.99. It sold as part of my clearance offer for $25.99. I only had $1 in it. I picked it up at a garage sale a long time ago, so this is still kind of a win. $25.99 plus shipping. I paid $4.93 to eBay in fees. It was $4.63 to ship. My cost of goods sold was $1. $25.99 ended up netting me $20.06. So that is pretty good. Continuing on eBay, this was part of a estate buy that I did. I bought a whole bunch of stuff. They had it must have been a teacher, and there was a giant stack of these little flyers and workbooks for teachers. This one was Perfect Numbers by Richard Shoemaker, National Council of Teachers of Mathematics. I picked these up for 25 cents a piece. There were probably, I would guess, 30 of them, and some of them have been $8, $10, $12. No big deal, but from a quarter, they're still a lot of fun. This one, however, I had listed for $34.99, did send out an offer to a watcher and sold it for $29.74. So plus shipping, fees were $5.35. This did sell through the promoted listings general, so $2.57 in ad fees. Again, my cost of goods sold just a quarter. An item listed for $29.74 brought me $22.18. I'm going to jump back into the chat here real quick and hit a couple of things. I'm sticking with just top rated for now, says Miss Lachey Resells. I don't want to deal with the free returns as a small seller. I also like the cushion of 2-day handling when life happens, but ship one day 98% of the time. And that is absolutely the way I would walk myself through that decision process. So anybody else that's thinking about that, it's not just me that kind of did that same thing. Here's another case where it just doesn't work for Miss Lachey to do that upgrade. The top rated is still, you get a little indicator on the listing for what that's worth, but you get the flexibility of not having to deal with returns, at least that eBay doesn't force you to take, and you're not under the pressure of having to do those constant daily shipping if you don't want to. Teresa Kralik, all good points regarding Pro-Rated Plus program. One final note, no negative feedback. Since returns are free, the buyer can't leave a negative that will stick. I haven't had a negative in years. I have had one that I could not get removed. I've talked about this before. It's about to fall off, I think, this week. The buyer, I'm trying to think who it was. Someone just posted, a similar buyer, that all they had done is leave negative feedback. Every purchase they had made, they left negative feedback with essentially the same comment. Looks like a copy, not an original. And I contacted eBay as a top-rated seller, as an item that was covered, and tried to get that removed, and they would not remove it. Oddly, I went back and looked later, and the other feedback that particular buyer had left for other sellers had been removed. I was the only one that failed to get that removed. So that is not bulletproof. That is supposed to be how they handle it, but it does not happen in every case. Kaylee Debs, good morning. Ryan and chat, good morning. Thanks for coming out. Bruce Johnson, good to see things are moving. My sales have been better this month. Been listing new items more consistently and ending and sell similar on older listings and seeing some results. That is something that I don't do. The end and sell similar, that I see a lot of sellers. I know Lonnie Shed Flips just did that recently. They're actually working through a bunch of old inventory and claim they're having very good results with that. So again, those kind of activities that trigger the algorithm, it sees that as a new listing, which it does tend to feature right off the bat. So that is definitely a way to jumpstart your sales. Rebel Junk, good morning, Aaron. Getting ready to drive and will listen. I appreciate that. Miss Lachey, a lot of sellers that are top rated plus have complained about not getting negatives removed lately. Despite eBay saying at the, whatever it was, the summer seller check-in, that they had rolled out this whole new program to make that process easier for sellers, a lot of us have complained that that has actually not been the case. It has not worked. I haven't had one, like I said, since last August. So I haven't had to deal with it, but I know a lot of sellers are saying that that is still a problem. I'm going to take a quick drink of this coffee. I didn't sleep at all last night for some reason. I am beat and I need the caffeine. So let's continue on here with some of these sales. Next up, over on eBay, the Snubby Revolver, the ECQ Backup and Concealed Carry Standard 2007 Revised. I picked this up at an estate sale as part of a big buy. I bought a couple of hundred books, maybe, something like that, for a little over $200. These worked out to 94 cents a piece. This is a trade paperback from 2007 that had a really good value. So this sold for $33.99 on an offer. I had it listed for $39.99. Somebody reached out and bought it for $33.99 plus shipping. I did pay $6.69 to eBay in fees. Shipping $4.63. Again, cost of goods sold 94 cents. $33.99 turned into $26.36. I find not all, but a lot of these kind of 2000s era handgun and concealed carry books seem to have pretty good value. So be on the lookout for those if you are a bookseller. Back over to Etsy, Here I Stay by Elizabeth Coatsworth. This was a book from 1938, an illustrated hardcover published by Cadmus Books E.M. Hale. Really in pretty good shape considering the age. Had this thing listed for $42.99. This was part of a big estate buyout that I'm into for just 50 cents. It was in my 10% off program over on Etsy, so it sold for $38.69 plus shipping. $4.60 in fees plus the shipping. Again, just 50 cents cost of goods sold, so $38.69 on the item turned into $34.34 to me. Back to eBay, an old textbook, The New Knowing About Numbers from 1956. This was part of the Winston Arithmetics series. This was book number 8, illustrated hardcover in actually pretty decent condition. Not much writing in it. It was pretty clean. I had it listed for, I believe, $49.99. I received an offer of $42 on eBay, which I went ahead and accepted, plus shipping. $7.21 in fees. This did sell through promoted listings, so $3.54 in ad fees. Cost of goods sold on this, part of a big buyout for just 64 cents. So a $42 sale netted me $30.61. This is an interesting one. It took me longer to sell than I anticipated, but Ring Figure Dance, 1978 yearbook from the Virginia Military Institute. There was nothing like this that I could find at the time I listed this, which I've had this for probably 8 months or so. So I took a stab at it. I just threw it up there for $54.99. I've sent out a few offers over time over on eBay. Somebody on Etsy finally picked this thing up with the 10%. It went for $49.49 plus shipping. $5.68 in fees, no offsite ad fee. Cost of goods sold, again, part of a big lot. I own it for 91 cents. $49.49 turned into a net profit of $42.90. I talk about these old yearbooks all the time. I just bought a bunch more the other day. Can be slow sellers. Can be quite heavy to ship. The ones I picked up the other day were really big, but they can bring pretty good money if you can be patient with them. Back over to eBay. These were really interesting. So as part of a big free pickup I did a couple of weeks ago, there was a bunch of this kind of Ikebana Japanese art and flower arrangement books. There were 3 in this pickup. This person bought 2 of them. These are Sagetsu textbooks, numbers 3 and 4 in one volume and book 5 in another. I had them listed for, I believe, $32.99 a piece. There was very little like this out there. I got a watcher. I sent out my 15% off offers and sold these for $27.19 a piece. So $54.38. I did do combined shipping, so shipping was $5.38. My fees were $9.96 plus the promoted listing fee of $4.76, but a zero cost of goods sold because this was a free estate clean out. So no cost of goods sold, $39.66 in profit from a couple of books that were free to me. I like it. Back over to Mercari. This is one that you saw if you are a regular attender of the live or you catch it on replay that I did as part of what I was listing the other day. And it was interesting because there was some pushback a little bit about, I researched this pretty quickly while we were live. And I had a couple of people say that I should have dug a little deeper looking at kind of the condition of the other ones. But I was looking as I was scrolling on my phone at what the covers looked like noticing which ones were book club editions and which ones were not. And this is one that there was a pretty broad range of sales, anywhere from about $40 to about $100. And I said I was going to price mine at $74.99 and just see what happened. And within a week, I sold it on Mercari for $80 plus free shipping. So it may look like, and part of that is just experience. And you're probably the same way. If you list in clothing or electronics, you just know at a quick glance what your comps are and what things you need to really pay attention to as you're doing listings or doing research. So it may have looked like I was pretty carefree and careless with that, but I was absorbing quite a bit of information and was able to get $80 out of this book that I own for just 50 cents from an estate buyout. So $80, free shipping, no fees. This sale netted me $74.87. So that is definitely a win. Back over to eBay. This is another one from that free book pickup from about 3 weeks ago. I'm just finally starting to get into these books, and some of them are selling actually for pretty good money already. This is The Exponent, St. Mary's College from Dayton, Ohio. This was a magazine, volume 11, numbers 4 and 5 from April and May of 1913. This covered the flood of the Great Miami River through the kind of downtown Dayton area. Really interesting old magazine. Cover was a little worn, had some damage on the spine, lots of the age-related tanning and foxing that I talk about pretty regularly here, but a really, really cool piece. There was only one other magazine of this type that I could find, and it was not as old as this one, so I priced this, I believe, at maybe $129.99. I got an offer of $100. It was free to me, so I absolutely took that offer. $100 plus shipping. The order total was $111.33. I did pay a fortune in fees, $15.38, even with my top-rated seller plus 10% off, $15.38. Did sell through the promoted listings general, so $7.79 in fees. $4.55 in shipping. This did go out ground advantage, so it was covered by the $100 insurance, so I didn't have to buy any additional insurance, and I saved a little bit of money on the shipping. Again, cost of goods sold was nothing, so this $100 item netted me $76.91. I'm going to hop back into the chat here real quick. B-Dog, when you sell similar, alter your listing a little to freshen it up, like the description. Absolutely. If you've got access to it, maybe take some new photos, make some sort of change that will help trigger the fact that this is a new item. And depending on how long you've been doing this, you may be better now at creating listings. You may have changed your templates or how you do things. So going back and redoing this and making some updates can help bring it into line with the best practices that you're using today. Miss Lachey resells midday nap, she says. I gotta have one of those today. Probably after I walk the dog, I think. Miss Lachey resells, got an email from eBay about them managing my excluded shipping locations unless I opt out. Yes, they talked about that. It has probably been a couple of months ago. I covered that in an episode regarding they were going to be adding, what was it, Hawaii, Alaska, and Puerto Rico to the eBay international shipping program. And at the same time, they were going to start managing your excluded shipping locations. So I have opted out of that. I have, as I talked about probably a year ago, I was having all kinds of problems with eBay's exclusions not working properly and not allowing me to ship to places that I should have been able to ship. So I made a couple of edits on my own that seemed to trigger opening that back up. And have been successfully selling over there ever since. So yeah, that is, they've been talking about it for a while, and it sounds like you finally got the message from them that they're going to be doing that to yours. Mel flips it. Going to try TRP, even though I'm small, because I need a break on fees, and I've been shipping daily for 3 months with no problem. So we will see. Good luck. I think if you've already been doing it, you should be able to continue doing it. I've got my business policies set up, my shipping preferences that I ship on Saturday. I have one business day handling. So orders on Friday have to ship on Saturday. I have 7 o'clock in the morning set as the cutoff for same day business. So I do some same day shipping. If you've ordered and paid for your item before 7 o'clock in the morning, when I get up and get moving, I'll ship it that same day. If I am going to go away for the weekend, I just go into my shipping preferences and turn that day off, Saturday. So I know you had asked, Melissa, in the email that you sent me about Saturdays. And when I'm going to be gone for a weekend, I just turn Saturdays off as a business and handling day for me. And then those orders that come in on Friday then are expected to ship on Monday. So hopefully that is helpful as well. Miss Lachey, nothing wrong with trying it out to see if it works for you. Absolutely. You'll know really quickly if it makes sense. If you start seeing more returns, keep an eye on the numbers and make sure that the math is still working for you. But yeah, give it a try. Continuing on here, we're down to, I think, the last couple. This one over on Etsy, Lambeth Method of Cake Decoration and Practical Pastries. This was written and edited by Joseph Lambeth back in 1934. This was a illustrated hardcover, big, again, coffee table sized book. I picked this up at an estate sale a couple of weeks ago for $2, and I had it listed for $139.99 plus shipping, which kind of put me in the middle of the comps that I saw. There were some older ones that looked to be earlier editions that were probably a little more valuable. There were some others that were not in as good a shape as this one, so I kind of split the difference at $140. I am running, again, that 10% off at Etsy, so this sold for $125.99 plus shipping. Thankfully, did not sell through the offsite ad program, so my fees were only $14.19. Again, shipping was about break even. I did ship this Ground Advantage, but I did add some insurance because it was a $125 item. So all in, I paid $8.87 in shipping, where I only collected $8.38. But to have the peace of mind of having the insurance, that was a thing I was willing to do. Again, cost of goods sold $2 at an estate sale not too long ago, $125.99 into $109.31 net profit. That is a win. Here's another one. These were really interesting. So I was at a sale back in the spring, and there was a box, like a slipcase, full of these little booklets, the Insight School of Yoga. And it was supposed to be a box of 15 of these booklets. And as it turned out, there were only 14 in there. So again, a case where there was not a complete set of these. So I choose to list them individually in that case. I had these all listed for $19.99 or best offer. I sold one to someone a couple of months ago, and then I sold another one to a person who then reached out to me and said, I see you still have a bunch of these left. What kind of a deal could you give me? And I'm like, I'm into these for next to nothing. I think I bought this whole box of these for what netted out to $1.69. So super cheap to me. So I told him I would do $150 free shipping if he took all 11 I had remaining. He said that sounded like a good deal, so that's what we did. $150 for 11 of these little 20-odd page Insight School of Yoga booklets from the 1950s. Plus sales tax, $12, $162 order total. I paid $22.20 in fees. This was a new listing, so I did not promote it because this was a private listing to one individual. So just the normal $22.20 in fees. It cost $6.67 to ship, again with some insurance on it, which I paid for out of pocket. $1.69 cost of goods sold, $119.44 in net profit on these little booklets. That is a win. And this is going to be the last one. If you were here, I don't know if it was last week or 2 weeks ago, I held up one of these Kit Kat books for an example of, I think, foxing. And somebody else had noticed that these were from Columbus. Let's talk a little bit about these books. Not a lot of these out there. I think at the time I bought these, there was only one listed, and it was $34.99. So I ended up buying, I got 9 of these as part of a big estate buyout. I'm into them for $3.47 total. I think my cost of goods sold is like 80 some cents a piece on these. So super, super cheap. Might have been even less than that, but $3.47 is what it netted out to. I had someone that reached out that is familiar with the Kit Kat Club and had some of these volumes. These are collections of, in some cases, 12 issues of a magazine, in some cases 4 because they switched to quarterly. But these are hardbound books of these kind of literature and history magazines from this club in Columbus, Ohio, called the Kit Kat Club, from the early 1900s. The club was originally formed in 1911. The first volume of these was in 1912. I had 9 volumes ranging anywhere from 1912 to, I think, the early 1920s. This guy's like, if I took all 9 of them, what would you do for me? So I put up a deal. I said I would do them for $259.99 plus shipping if he bought all 9. We kind of went back and forth. He also turns out to be a bookseller of some sort. He asked if I would do a dealer trade. I said, I've already got 2,000 books in my garage. I don't really need anything else but money at this point. So I appreciate the offer, but I would really prefer to just sell these. And he said, okay. So $3.47 turned into a $259.99 sale plus shipping. Order total was $290.92. Again, this was a custom lot that I built for this person, so only paid the regular fees, $39.54. Shipping cost was $8.94. That's Ground Advantage plus insurance. I charged him media rate, and as it turned out, it was cheaper to send them Ground Advantage in a box with $250 worth of insurance on them. So this thing turned into a net profit to me of $218.67, which is, any way you slice it, pretty fantastic. And that's going to wrap up a pretty hefty What Sold segment. It has been a really good kind of 10 days here at the Galaxy. Very pleased with how things have picked up as the month has continued. Get back into the chat real quick. Miss Lachey Resells says, please hit that thumbs up button. Again, I'm terrible at that, but please do that. If you've enjoyed being here today, and I enjoy you all coming out and participating, but please do me a favor and hit that thumbs up. Operani on eBay asked, when you created the new listing for the bulk buy of yoga books, did you end the existing listings first? I did. I ended them and I deactivated them over on Mercari and on Etsy because I had those cross-posted to both of those sites as well. So I didn't delete them there. I just deactivated them so that I could relist them pretty easily. They have that as an option where eBay, you just essentially have to end the listing. So yes, I did end all of those when I created this listing. Normally when I do that, I give them 2 or 3 days to come back and make the purchase of the custom listing. Normally they do it within 24 hours. Normally, once you've negotiated a price, I'm not waiting very long for people to make these purchases. And then I go in, I leave those listings in kind of the unsold so that I know where to go to pull them. And then I finally delete them completely from eBay. My reseller treasure, Brandy, good morning. I'm happy with Top Rated with Concierge. Good morning. Good morning. Yes. Are you still getting concierge service? Because I've heard a lot of sellers say that service is either ended or ending, or they seem to no longer have access to it. So let me know if that's something, because I've had a devil of a time ever getting anybody to help me out at eBay. They always give you that greeting. Oh, thank you so much. I see you've been a seller with us since 1999 or whatever it's been in my case. And I'm like, yeah, so help me out. And yet I seem to struggle to get assistance when I need it. So yeah, if you're still here in the chat, let me know. Is that a program that you're still getting any traction on? We are at about 50 minutes. So if anybody has any questions or any additional topics they would like to try to handle in this last few minutes, leave them in the chat and let's get to it. I don't really have anything else. I hope everybody is having a good August and that business has picked up. I know a lot of sellers were complaining, particularly early in the month, that things seemed awfully, awfully slow. It's weird because historically my business has picked up significantly in August, and that is not the case. Now, to be fair, I'm coming off a record July, so maybe it just feels worse than it is. But July was amazing. August has been less so, but it's still decent. Again, I'll go one last round for anybody who has questions. I see there's still a bunch of you here in the chat, so if you've got anything else you would like to discuss, let us know, and I'd be happy to answer any questions or go over anything one last time before we close this thing out for the week. Quick programming note, I am going to take next Wednesday off from the live, so be aware, no live next Wednesday. I need a little bit of a mental health day. I'm going to take a break from trying to get 2 shows a week done. It can be a lot. Trying to do 100 to 150 listings a week, ship 80 to 100 listings a week, take care of my new dog, get my 5 miles of walks in every day, and do these 2 shows a week gets to be a bit of a load, and I'm ready for a little bit of a break. So there will be no live next Wednesday, whatever that is, Labor Day week, and then we will come back the following Wednesday with a new show. I don't see anything else popping up in the chat, so I believe we're at a point where we can safely call it a day. As always, I thank you so much for coming out and spending a little bit of your time with me on the show, for your participation, for your comments, for your chat. I absolutely appreciate the support. I do see something else in the chat now. Sales have been up and down, but overall I'm up 5% from this time last year, says Miss Lachey. That's excellent. I think I said last week I'm up, I think it's about 12% for the total year. I had a couple of really, really strong months. August is not. It's essentially flat. I feel like eBay. I'm going to have like 1% growth for August, but it's better than a decline. But yeah, for the year, I'm up pretty good. Operating on eBay, my sales shot up last weekend, but I think that's because 2 weeks ago I got serious and followed all your tips. Well, thank you. I hope they're helpful. They are definitely things that have worked for me in the past. They're things that you'll see other sellers talk about as well. Again, the activity, the daily listing, whether you do it fresh at the moment, or if you do it on a Sunday and you build up some drafts that you can post then throughout the week, anything that you can do to help trigger eBay with new listings and those sorts of things are super, super helpful. Kaylee Debs, thank you. Have a great week. You too. Bruce Johnson, enjoy your time. I will. I'm looking forward to a little bit of a break. I may actually even take Monday off. I've debated actually maybe taking a little 3-day weekend and going on a little bit of a trip, but I'm not sure I quite want to do that. I may just do a staycation and not do much. So, but again, I appreciate everybody coming out. Miss Lachey, thank you. Enjoy your nap. I intend to. Absolutely. Thank you so much. With that, we're going to close this thing out. Thank you again for coming out, and we will see you next time. You have been listening to the Galaxy CDs Rocks and Flips Reseller Talk podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we will catch you again next time.